Hello everybody, my name is Cesar Mares and I will speak about poverty and its measurement. What is poverty? When you think in this concept, the first point is thinking about income. Then, UNESCO has defined it the foregoing as income poverty is when a family's income fails to meet a well-established threshold that differs across countries. Its measurement is based on families and not individually. Generally, the economists define a minimum level of income necessary to satisfy basic needs. It based on acceptance worldwide. By the above, the international standard of extreme poverty is set to the position of less than 1.25 United States dollars a day. However, other way to define poverty is if it is absolute or relative. Absolute poverty measures poverty in relation to amount of money necessary to meet basic needs such as food, clothing, and shelter. This concept is only based on income, not on quality of life or human needs. On the other hand, relative poverty defines poverty in relation to the economic status of other members from society. People are poor if they live below living standards of their social context. Namely, poverty is relative to social context. However, these concepts refer to income and consumption. Based on the above, it's necessary opening the concept to other kinds of needs such as social exclusion. The idea is to enlarge the concept of relative poverty, adding three new perspectives. The income perspective indicates that a person is poor only if his or her income is below the country's poverty line. The basic needs perspective goes beyond the income perspective to include the needs for the provision by a community of the basic social services necessary to prevent individuals falls into poverty. And finally, the capability or empowerment perspective suggests that poverty signifies a lack of some basic capability to function. As a result, poverty shows us several facts that originate. Then, the new methodology of measuring poverty is called multidimensional poverty because it involves more aspects, not only income. This new methodology is the best option to show poverty like whole. Poverty in Mexico. What does poverty mean to Mexican government? Mexico has established a legal framework to measure poverty. This document says, the definition of poverty considers the population living conditions from three spaces: economic, social rights, and territorial context. Economic welfare space includes needs associated with goods and services that population can purchase with its income. A space of social rights will be integrated from the population's shortcomings in the exercise of their right to social development. Territorial context space will incorporate aspects that transcend the individual level, specifically those associated with social cohesion degree, as well as others considered relevant to social development. Until 2008, Mexican government used methodology based on income only. However, the economic crisis from 2009 left uncovered the lack of more robust indicators that could share real poverty dimension. Based on this, poverty in Mexico is characterized as lack of access of its citizens to basic human needs such as nutrition, clean water, and shelter. It extends to the overall infrastructure of its society to include education, healthcare, social security, quality, and basic services in the household, income and social cohesion as defined by social development laws in the country. The agency in charge of measuring poverty is the National Council for Evaluation of Social Development Policy, Coneval. This measurement is based on statistics generated by the National Statistics and Geography Institute, INEGI. Coneval processes data and it estimates each 2 years information for states and each 5 years for municipalities. Coneval should take into account at least 6 from 8 indicators which are listed in the Article 36 of the General Law for Social Development. The indicators are current per capita income, average educational gap in the household, access to health services, access to social security, quality and space of the dwelling, access to basic services in the dwelling, access to food, degree of social cohesion. By the above, Coneval defines like multidimensional poverty situation a person is in when the exercise of at least one of his/her rights for social development is not guaranteed, and his/her income is insufficient to acquire the goods and services he/she requires to satisfy her needs. This definition includes one of the most important topics, income. Even though income is not the one and only indicator, it continues being base of measurement. For this, Coneval has defined the multidimensional poverty well-being lines. Minimum well-being. It's the monetary value of a basic food basket in a particular month. For purpose of poverty measure, the reference value of the basket is the month of August of the year when the measurement is held. This line is calculated for rural and urban areas. Well-being line. Monetary value of a food and non-food basket of basic consumption. In the next table, you can see the evolution of multidimensional poverty well-being lines. The most recent statistics about poverty, that's to say, 2012. If you see this year, you can note that the first 3 amounts are below of Mexican minimum wage, more or less 1,800 pesos. The above showed was the methodology for measuring poverty. Then we have arrived at 2 concepts most used at global level: moderate poverty or only poverty and extreme poverty. Definition of moderate poverty says a person is poor if he/she has at least one social lack, an income minor to well-being line. People in extreme poverty has 3 or more social lacks, an income minor to minimal well-being line. For 2010, Mexico had 112,554 inhabitants and 46% in poverty. In other words, 52 million people had at least one social lack and income below 2,140 pesos at cities and 1,349 pesos at rural areas. However, the most worrisome data is 11.7 million people did not have enough income to buy a basic food basket. Its income was below 991 at cities and 698 at rural areas. Half Mexico is in poverty. Poverty causes. Individual condition. The first common cause of poverty is the individual condition. This means a person's individual circumstances and possibilities create their opportunity for access to goods and services. This condition is provoked by a person's income, education, training or work experience, social network, age, health, and other socio-economic factors. Education. 8% of the population is illiterate. 73% of Mexican households have at least one member without education or education below the 7th grade. Elementary school for United States, secondary school for Mexico. 40% of people in the states of Chiapas, Veracruz, Hidalgo, Oaxaca, and Guerrero have education below the 7th grade. Individuals without the training or education beyond high school are unable to compete in the economy and unable to afford a minimum standard of living. Underemployment. Getting an education does not imply better paying jobs or overcoming unemployment in Mexico. There are only a few better paying jobs in Mexico for university and other well educated graduates. Insufficient infrastructure and geography. Mexico is a country where investment on infrastructure has remained as unequally distributed as income, especially in rural areas and in the southern states, because many people establish in rural areas without government permission and without paying property taxes. The government does not make significant efforts to invest in overall infrastructure of the entire country. Communities often face a combination of unpaved roads, lack of electricity and potable water, improper sanitation, poorly maintained schools, vandalism and crime, and lack of social development programs. The concentration of poverty and distribution of wealth and opportunities is clearly visible from geographic perspective. The northern region of the country offers higher development while the southern states are the most impoverished. This is clearly the result of states equipped with better infrastructure than others. The states of Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Guerrero are among the least developed in the country. Their infrastructure is broken to the basis such as lack of roads, access to education, health services, and employment sources. Unemployment. Unemployment in Mexico is a lifestyle. They will appreciate our macroeconomic indicators, continuing low levels of inflation and stability in the national currency exchange rate. However, it is not arriving to all people. We need to create at least 1 million jobs every year to keep up with the growing population. With the abundance of natural resources in the country, these benefits don't seem to reach many of the people of Mexico who lack job opportunities and the means to raise their standards of living out of poverty and marginalization. Inequitable income distribution. Mexico's inequitable distribution of wealth is among the highest in the world. 85% of the national wealth is concentrated in a few families of entrepreneurs, corporate management, and politicians. By example, Carlos Slim, the richest man in Mexico and in the world, has a personal fortune equal to 4 to 6% of the country's GDP. Obsolete regulatory framework. The absence of basic agreements among Mexico's main political parties for more than 10 years has caused a serious backwardness in needed legislation in a number of areas. As a result of structural reform failures on labor, fiscal, energy, and legal matters, Mexico has fallen behind reducing poverty and encouraging development comparable to Latin American countries like Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and Costa Rica. The current economic framework needs adjustment on virtually all levels, including business development opportunities, fair competition, tax collection and tax law, commerce, trade, and finance regulations. Absent competitive economy. The Mexican economy does not support unprivileged businesses, considering its current standards regarding monopolies both in the public and private sectors. By law, there are public monopolies, government-owned companies controlling oil and gas, electricity, water, etc. Private sector monopolies are found in the media, television, telecommunication, and raw materials. Government. Foreign dependence. While the NAFTA agreement proved effective in increasing Mexico's economic performance, government did not enough to promote social advancement and reducing poverty. To remain competitive in the international market, Mexico has had to offer low wages to its workers while allowing high returns and generous concessions to international corporations. Current recessionary trends in the United States have an even greater impact on Mexico because of the great economic dependence of the northern neighbor. After crude oil export sales, remittances sent home by Mexicans working in the United States are Mexico's second largest source of foreign income. Politicians. Administration after administration, economic policies and social development programs have been targeted at decreasing poverty and increasing development in the country. Even with the best of intentions, friction between the special interests of decision makers and the general public welfare make it difficult to clear goals in the benefits of the public to be accomplished. Transparency and corruption. The lack of political transparency in Mexico has led to bureaucratic corruption and market inefficiencies, and as explained below, income inequalities. Conclusions. Income poverty is when a family's income fails to meet a federally established threshold that differs across countries. The international standard of extreme poverty is set to the position of less than 1.2 United States dollars per day. It's necessary opening the concept to other kinds of needs such as social exclusion, the income perspective, the basic needs, and the capability or empowerment perspective. As a result, poverty shows as several facts that originate. Then, the new methodology of measuring poverty is called multidimensional poverty because it involves more aspects, not only income. This new methodology is the best option to show poverty like whole. In Mexico, the definition of poverty considers the population living condition from three spaces: economic, social rights, and territorial context. The agency in charge of measuring poverty is the National Council for the Evaluation of Social Development Policy, Coneval. This measurement is based on statistics generated by the INEGI. Coneval processes data and it estimates each 2 years information for a state and each 5 years for municipalities. Coneval defines like multidimensional poverty situation a person is when the exercise of at least one of his/her rights for social development is not warranted from and his/her income is insufficient to acquire the goods and services he/she requires to satisfy his/her needs. For 2010, Mexico had 46% of people in poverty and 10.4% of people in extreme poverty. The causes of poverty are individual condition. These involve factors like income, education, training or work experience, social network, age, health, and other socioeconomic factors. Insufficient infrastructure and geography. We have a lot of difference between North and South, and it provokes marginalization and more poverty. Our economy depends strength from United States. Politicians only are looking for your personal interest. While we do not change fighting weight against poverty, we continue to generate more poor persons. Thank you.